California looks familiar. You've seen it 1,000 times. Sunlit beaches, palm trees, movie stars, perfect weather frozen in memory. But that version of California is a mask. Beneath it lies a state that is constantly tearing itself apart and rebuilding at the same time. A place where mountains rise while land sinks, where cities are stacked on top of forgotten cities, and where the ground itself never truly stops moving. This is a state shaped by fire, fractures, floods, and ambition. A place where deserts bloom overnight and then vanish, where forests burn to survive, where the ocean can glow blue one night and disappear the next. California isn't stable, it isn't predictable, and it isn't finished. In this countdown, we're uncovering 50 insane and bizarre facts about California that most people never hear about. Facts that sound fake. Facts that feel wrong. Facts that reveal why the Golden State is less a destination and more a living experiment. This is California beyond the postcards, behind the movies, beyond the myth. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you always know what Wunderlust Labs is up to next. Let's begin the countdown. Number 50, California has more people than most countries. California isn't just big for a US state, it's huge on a global scale. With nearly 40 million residents, California has a larger population than Canada, Australia, Poland, and every single Scandinavian country combined. If California were its own nation, it would rank around 38th in population worldwide. That means more people live in California than in entire continents worth of famous countries. One state, one coastline, 40 million lives. And that density leads to some very strange outcomes. 49, there's a town where it hasn't rained in years. Welcome to Death Valley, the driest place in North America. Some locations inside Death Valley have gone over 5 years without a single measurable drop of rain. Yet somehow, life survives. Plants bloom seemingly overnight after rare storms. Animals burrow underground to avoid the heat, and temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, making it one of the hottest places ever recorded on Earth. It's less desert and more planet that forgot to install water. 48, California has a desert below sea level. Death Valley doesn't just break temperature records. Parts of it sit over 280 feet below sea level, making it the lowest point in North America. So while Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the contiguous US, rises just 85 miles away, Death Valley plunges downward like a geographic prank. In California, you can go from the lowest point to the highest point in the lower 48 in a single afternoon drive. The land itself can't decide what it wants to be. 47, there's a lake that shouldn't exist. The Salton Sea is one of the strangest bodies of water in America. It wasn't planned, it wasn't engineered, it was an accident. In 1905, a failed irrigation project caused the Colorado River to flood into a dry basin for nearly 2 years, creating a massive inland lake. At first, it became a vacation hotspot. Then, it turned toxic. Rising salinity, dying fish, and toxic dust storms now plague the area. A lake born by mistake, slowly poisoning the desert around it. 46, California has earthquakes you can't feel. Not all earthquakes shake buildings. California experiences thousands of micro-earthquakes every year, most so small that only instruments detect them. The ground beneath you is constantly shifting, stretching, grinding, and releasing tension. You're not standing on solid land. You're standing on a slow-moving battlefield between tectonic plates. And sometimes, the plates win. 45, the ground can literally open during an earthquake. During major quakes, the earth doesn't just shake, it rips. Cracks can tear through roads, yards, and buildings, creating sudden chasms where flat ground existed seconds earlier. In past earthquakes, entire neighborhoods were split apart, with sidewalks offset by feet overnight. One day you're mowing your lawn, the next day your front yard has a fault line running through it. 44. California has ghost forests. Along parts of the coast, rising sea levels and land subsidence have killed entire forests. Saltwater floods inland, poisoning the soil and leaving behind stands of dead trees that still rise upright from the ground. No leaves, no birds, just skeletal trunks frozen in place. They're called ghost forests, and they look like something pulled from a post-apocalyptic movie, except they're real and growing. Number 43, some redwoods are older than the Roman Empire. California's coast redwoods are the tallest trees on Earth. Some reach over 380 feet high, but the truly mind-bending part is their age. Many redwoods alive today were already standing when Julius Caesar was still alive, when the Roman Empire hadn't yet peaked, when the concept of America didn't exist. These trees have survived fires, earthquakes, floods, and human expansion. They've seen everything, and they're still standing. 42. Trees can communicate underground. Redwoods don't just grow tall, they cooperate. Their root systems intertwine underground, allowing them to share nutrients and stabilize one another during storms. Some scientists believe they can even send chemical signals through fungal networks, warning nearby trees of threats. The forest isn't silent, it's talking. Number 41, California has a volcano that could still erupt. Mount Shasta isn't just scenic, it's an active stratovolcano. The last eruption was only a few hundred years ago, and geologists consider it very much alive. Beneath the snow-covered slopes lies a massive magma chamber. It sleeps, but it is not dead. 40. There's a town buried by a volcano. In Northern California lies the remains of a town buried by volcanic mud flows thousands of years ago. Homes, tools, and even footprints were preserved under ash and debris. Think Pompeii, but American. The land erased a community and then quietly moved on. 39. California has more national parks than any other state. California has 9 national parks, more than any other state. Deserts, mountains, forests, coastlines. It's like someone crammed half the planet's ecosystems into one state and said, let's see what happens. What happened was chaos and beauty. 38. There's a desert where it snows. The Mojave Desert isn't always scorching. In winter, parts of it receive snowfall. Snow-covered sand dunes under blue desert skies look completely wrong, like reality misfired. But in California, contradictions are normal. 37. California has a town where everyone left. Bodie, California is a preserved ghost town. Once a booming gold mining hub with thousands of residents, it was abandoned almost overnight when the gold ran out. Today, it remains frozen in time. Furniture still inside buildings, school desks untouched, bottles still on shelves. The town didn't decay, it simply stopped. 36. Hollywood isn't actually in Hollywood. Most movies set in Los Angeles aren't filmed there. Production often happens in Georgia, Canada, or sound stages far from the iconic sign. Hollywood is more of a symbol than location now. A dream factory that mostly exports imagination. 35. California once tried to split into 6 states. In 2014, a proposal was seriously put forward to divide California into 6 separate states. The idea gained traction, petitions were signed, debates erupted. Ultimately, it failed, but the fact that it came close says a lot about how massive and divided the state truly is. 34. There are laws about exploding whales. Yes, really. After a whale carcass exploded during a failed disposal attempt on a California beach in 1970, laws were eventually written about how not to dispose of whales. Sometimes history leaves very specific scars. 33. California has the world's oldest restaurant still operating. The old Clam House in San Francisco has been serving food since 1861. That's before the Civil War ended. People have eaten meals there across centuries of earthquakes, fires, and technological revolutions. Same building, same city, a very different world. 32. The ocean glows blue at night. Certain California beaches experience bioluminescence, where microscopic organisms light up when disturbed. Waves glow electric blue. Footsteps leave trails of light. Kayaks carve glowing paths through the water. It looks fake, it's not. 31. California has a town named after a zipper. The town of Zizix was named to be the last word in the English language. It was founded by a man with questionable intentions. The name stuck. Sometimes California feels like an inside joke that went too far. 30. Silicon Valley was once farmland. Before it was code, servers, and trillion-dollar valuations, Silicon Valley was dirt. Literal dirt. The land south of San Francisco was once covered in orchards as far as the eye could see. Apricot trees, plum groves, cherry farms. The smell of fruit filled the air where data centers now hum. Farmers didn't grow apps here, they grew food. But after World War II, military contracts, universities, and defense research quietly rewired the region. Semiconductor labs replaced barns. Orchards were bulldozed for office parks. And almost nobody noticed it happening until it was too late. The most powerful digital economy on Earth grew out of soil that once fed families. California didn't just change industries, it changed what land itself was for. 29. There's a prison on an island surrounded by sharks. Alcatraz wasn't designed to be impossible to escape, it was designed to feel impossible. The prison sat isolated in San Francisco Bay, surrounded by freezing water, crushing currents, and unpredictable tides. Inmates could see the city, hear laughter, hear music drifting across the water. Freedom was close enough to taste, but always just out of reach. And yes, sharks live in the bay, mostly harmless species, but fear does the real work here. Officially, no one ever escaped Alcatraz. Unofficially, some believe a few inmates may have survived the swim and vanished into California's endless sprawl. A prison designed not just to hold bodies, but to break hope. 28. California has cities that physically move themselves. When California towns face extinction, they don't always surrender, they relocate. Entire buildings have been jacked up, placed on rollers, and dragged down streets to avoid floods, railroads, or economic collapse. Hotels, homes, schools. Imagine standing on a sidewalk as a 3-story building slowly rolls past you like a parade float from the 1800s. California has always treated permanence as optional. If the land doesn't cooperate, the town simply moves. 27. California has its own time zones, sort of. Officially, California has one time zone. In reality, time gets fuzzy. Border towns near Nevada, Oregon, and Arizona often live on unofficial schedules to match nearby communities. Businesses open early or late depending on where their customers live. Even daylight itself behaves strangely here. Coastal fog can keep mornings dim, while deserts bake in sunlight just hours away. In California, time isn't strict. It's negotiable. 26. California has more languages than any other state. More than 220 languages are spoken across California. That's not a metaphor, that's a linguistic avalanche. Entire neighborhoods operate in languages most Americans have never heard spoken aloud. Newspapers, radio stations, schools, and churches function in parallel cultural worlds. You can drive 10 minutes and enter a completely different linguistic reality. California isn't melting into one culture, it's stacking them. 25. There's a desert where rocks move on their own. In Death Valley's racetrack playa, stones weighing hundreds of pounds slide across the ground, leaving long trails behind them. For decades, no one saw it happen. No tracks, no animals, no people, just rocks moving. Eventually, scientists discovered thin sheets of ice form beneath the stones during rare conditions, allowing wind to push them slowly across the lake bed. But even knowing the explanation doesn't make it feel normal, because the Earth shouldn't move things when no one is watching. 24. Some California fires create their own weather. California wildfires don't just burn forests, they rewrite physics. Massive fires can generate fire tornadoes, lightning storms, and their own wind systems. Flames create updrafts so powerful they pull oxygen toward them like a living thing. Firestorms have been known to jump rivers, highways, and fire breaks with ease. At a certain size, the fire stops being a disaster, it becomes an ecosystem. 23. California has a lake that turns animals to stone. Mono Lake looks peaceful. Blue water, volcanic spires, wide open skies. But its chemistry is brutal. The water is so alkaline that animals which die there can slowly calcify, preserving their bodies in eerie stillness. It's not fossilization, it's chemical mummification. Nature quietly reminds everything who's in charge. 22. The gold rush changed the planet. The California gold rush didn't just reshape America, it rewired the world. People flooded in from every continent. Rivers were redirected. Mountains were blasted apart using hydraulic mining. Mercury poisoned waterways that still haven't recovered. Entire ecosystems collapsed so a few could get rich fast. California wasn't just discovered, it was extracted, and the scars are still visible if you know where to look. 21. California has a city built on top of another city. Parts of San Francisco hide a secret beneath their streets. After fires, floods, and chaos in the 1800s, the city didn't always rebuild outward. Sometimes it rebuilt on top. Old sidewalks, storefronts, and alleyways were buried and paved over. Today, there are underground tunnels and sealed rooms just feet beneath modern traffic. A forgotten city supporting a new one. 20. Some beaches have purple sand. California doesn't settle for ordinary beaches. At places like Pfeffer Beach, crushed garnet and mineral deposits tint the sand shades of purple. The color shifts with the light, sometimes subtle, sometimes unmistakable, as if the planet experimented with a different color palette and forgot to switch it back. 19. California has an official state dinosaur. California officially named a state dinosaur after fossils discovered within its borders. That means creatures walked this land millions of years before humans, before mountains rose, before coastlines formed. The ground beneath California holds entire extinct worlds. You're not walking on history, you're walking on layers of forgotten life. 18. You can experience all 4 seasons in one day. In California, seasons don't wait for their turn. You can snowboard in the morning, surf in the afternoon, hike through autumn forests at sunset, and camp in desert heat by nightfall. Few places compress this climate violently. The state doesn't transition, it collides. 17. There are towns that exist only temporarily. In California, some cities are never meant to last. They rise from empty desert or forgotten land, fully planned and fully powered. Roads appear. Power grids hum to life. Medical tents, art installations, homes, and neighborhoods materialize where nothing stood weeks earlier. Then tens of thousands arrive. For a brief moment, the city breathes. It has traffic, noise, rules, culture, memory, and then it disappears. Structures are dismantled, streets erased. The land returns to silence as if nothing ever happened. No ruins, no abandonment, just a city that existed because people agreed it should, and vanished when they agreed it shouldn't. California understands something ancient. Permanence is optional. 16. California has more earthquakes than any other state. California doesn't wait for disaster to remind you it's alive. It whispers constantly. Thousands of earthquakes ripple through the state every year. Most are too small to feel, too brief to notice, too quiet to register as danger. But they're not random. They're pressure being released, energy adjusting, the planet correcting itself beneath your feet. Every building stands because the Earth allows it to. For now. 15. One fault line could rewrite the map. The San Andreas Fault isn't just a crack in the Earth. It's a boundary between worlds. Two massive tectonic plates slide past each other here, locked in a slow-motion collision that stores unimaginable energy. When that energy releases, it won't just shake buildings. It could permanently change coastlines, shift entire neighborhoods, redraw California's shape. The state isn't fixed. It's provisional. 14. There are places where gravity feels wrong. Across California, so-called mystery spots create the sensation that gravity doesn't behave correctly. Balls roll uphill. People appear tilted while standing straight. Water flows in impossible directions. Science explains the illusion. Your instincts still revolt against it, because your brain expects reality to be honest. And here, it feels like it's lying. 13. California has towns with no residents. Some towns exist only on paper. They have names, legal boundaries, historical records, but no one lives there. No lights at night, no voices, no movement. They are administrative ghosts, reminders that civilization can leave without erasing its footprint. A town doesn't need people to exist. It just needs recognition. 12. The ocean can vanish for hours. Along California's coast, extreme low tides can pull the ocean far back from shore. Reefs are exposed, creatures stranded, shipwrecks revealed. The seabed becomes walkable, and then silently the water returns. No warning, no hesitation. The ocean never leaves permanently. It only steps away to remind you it can. 11. Some forests need fire to survive. In California, fire isn't always the enemy. Some trees evolved to depend on it. Their cones remained sealed until intense heat forces them open. Without wildfire, these forests cannot reproduce. They grow dense, unstable, and eventually collapse under their own weight. Fire clears, fire renews. Fire restores balance. Destruction isn't failure here, it's maintenance. 10. There are places the government won't fully map. Across California, certain regions remain deliberately vague on public maps. Details blurred, structures omitted, boundaries softened. These aren't accidents. They are reminders that even in one of the most documented places on Earth, there are still areas not meant to be fully seen. Not everything here is public. Some things are simply withheld. 9. The desert can bloom overnight. For most of the year, California's deserts feel lifeless. Dust, stone, silence. Then rare rains arrive, and within days the land erupts in color. Millions of flowers bloom simultaneously, carpeting the desert in shades that feel unreal. Insects arrive, birds return, life explodes, and just as quickly it disappears. The desert doesn't promise beauty, it loans it. 8. There are lakes that can kill you without warning. Some lakes in California release pockets of volcanic gas. Invisible, odorless, heavier than air. You could walk into one of these areas feeling perfectly fine and collapse moments later without understanding why. No struggle, no pain, no explanation. The danger isn't dramatic, it's quiet. 7. Mountains are rising while other land is sinking. California's terrain isn't finished settling. Some regions are slowly pushed upward by tectonic forces, while others sink due to groundwater loss, erosion, or plate movement. That means elevation maps age quickly. What is high today may not be tomorrow. The ground isn't stable. It's negotiating its final shape. 6. Entire cities were built for cars, not people. Much of California's urban landscape was designed around movement, not community. Wide roads, massive distances, sidewalks treated as optional. Here, life assumes an engine. To exist comfortably, you must move constantly. Stillness was never part of the plan. 5. California was once beneath the sea. Long before highways and cities, much of California lay underwater. Marine fossils appear in deserts, mountains, and farmland far from the coast. Shells embedded in stone, skeletons frozen where oceans once flowed. The land remembers what it used to be. even if we forget. 4. Some forests are one living organism. Entire groves of trees in California are genetically identical. Thousands of trunks rise separately, but share the same root system and DNA. They are not individuals, they are one organism, wearing many bodies. What looks like a forest is actually a single life form, spread across acres. Unity disguised as abundance. 3. California has more billionaires than any other state. Wealth concentrates here like gravity. Technology, entertainment, real estate, influence, money pulls more money, and success stacks on itself until the numbers stop feeling real. But this concentration creates contrast. Extreme wealth beside extreme vulnerability. California doesn't hide its extremes, it amplifies them. 2. The Earth breathes through California. Across the state, sulfur vents leak gases from deep underground, the planet exhaling. A reminder that the surface world is only a thin skin stretched over enormous forces beneath. You are never as far from the Earth's core as you think. 1. California shouldn't function, but it does. California operates on the edge of contradiction. It feeds millions while much of its water is imported. It powers one of the world's largest economies while sitting on major fault lines. It supports nearly 40 million people across deserts, mountains, and wildfire zones. If you design California on paper, engineers would call it unsustainable. Too dry, too crowded, too dependent on fragile systems. And yet, it works. A vast network of aqueducts, power grids, ports, highways, farms, data centers, and human cooperation holds the state together every single day. One failure can ripple across regions. One disruption can expose how thin the margin really is. California doesn't survive because it's stable. It survives because it's constantly adapting. A place that functions not because conditions are perfect, but because people refuse to stop making it work. California isn't just a place on a map, it's a process. Mountains here are still rising, fault lines are still sliding, forests burn so they can be reborn. Deserts bloom only when the land decides it's time. Nothing in California is finished. The cities you see are built on older cities. The wealth you see grew from farmland and forgotten labor. The coastlines you know are temporary sketches, redrawn by the planet over and over again. Even the ground beneath your feet is undecided. California doesn't promise stability, it promises motion, and that's why it pulls people in. Dreamers, builders, risk-takers, those willing to stand on shifting ground and call it opportunity. But the same forces that create miracles here also carry reminders that nature doesn't negotiate, that progress leaves scars, that beauty and danger are often the same thing. California is still being written, and everyone that's living on it is part of the draft. If this episode changed the way you see the Golden State, stay with us, because the next state is just as strange, and in some ways, even more unbelievable. This is Wunderlust Labs. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next countdown.